What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. Today, we are going to be diving into how we can, force ourselves to be seen in the Etsy search, in the Etsy algorithm, and really having Etsy want to push our products. And is there a way to actually, in fact, make it where, they can't ignore us? And there is actually, and we're going to cover those here today. And we are going to be going through them. There's like 4 different things that we're going to be addressing that we do have somewhat control over. And if we are able to, if we're able to do what Etsy wants us to do or what the algorithm wants us to do, there's a better chance of us being able to show up. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We also have a couple of other topics that we're going to be covering here. And yes, it has to do with Q4. One of them is there's 2 things right now that I know Etsy sellers are not going to be doing, and it's going to cost them thousands of dollars in Q4. So we're going to cover that, what those 2 things are. And then the other thing we're going to be talking about here today is some more general e-commerce news, but something just broke where Temu, yes, Temu, they're in some hot water. We're going to cover that and see what it has to, or if it has anything to do with Etsy sellers. So stay tuned for that. So Chris, I'm fired up for today's episode. We got a lot of stuff to cover here, a lot of ground to cover. What's going on over there? You ready to rock and roll?
Oh, I am. This is going to be a fun one, Scott, because now I'm getting the Wi-Fi bars, just like you're getting the Wi-Fi bars, and we're both directly wired in, which is hilarious. But we'll see what happens, right? This is what happens when we do things live. I'm pumped, man. We're three quarters, I guess, of the way through the Etsy Q4 training camp, our little boot camp, our preseason camp, if you will, that we've been doing. And people seem to be loving it. I think everybody's headed in the right direction, which I love to see. And I'm also seeing a lot of people making a lot of changes. That's part of the reason we wanted to have the conversation that we're having today, right? We can launch all the designs in the world. We can do all of these things. But if we can't get in front of the flywheel, the snowball that is that Etsy SEO algorithm, then all that work can be for nothing, right? And so these 4 things that we're going to be covering today will help ensure, right? We can't guarantee, but it's going to get you the best position possible between now and when Q4 traffic really kicks off to be in front of the algorithm, which is where you want to be, right? You never want to be behind the wave and you're trying to body surf, right, Scott? You want to be right in that wave. And that's what we're trying to do with today's session.
Awesome. All right. Before we do get started, though, guys, we have been having some internet issues here on my end, now on Chris's end. Let us know microphone levels, video quality. Is everything cool on your end? Can you guys see us? Can you hear us? Is Chris's microphone low? Is it loud? Just give us a little heads up here. I don't want to spend too much time here, but I do want to make sure if there's any issues, you guys let us know. Sue said good. So I think that means that we are good to go. So thank you. All good. Carrie says, okay, awesome. All good. All good. Awesome. 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 All right. And today I did come up with the day that we have until we are going to be celebrating Christmas. And why is that? Why is that a big deal? Because that means we're getting closer to Q4 and really how much time we have. Now, we don't have all the way up till Christmas. We have probably about 2 weeks before that. But right now, Chris, I have it on my little calendar here and I'm looking at it right now. 126 days until Christmas Day. All right. So right now, I know that's kind of silly, right? We're in August right now, but 126 days is what we have until that day. So that means we have less than that in order to get ready and to get our listings and our products optimized and really indexed. That's the thing that we're really talking about here today is like, how do we get indexed? How do we get Etsy to actually show our stuff over our competitors? Like, how do we do that? Is there a way to do that? Is there things that we can do to hopefully help that along and make it better, or make our listings better so they're found? Is it finding better keywords? We're going to address all of that stuff here today. All right. Let me know in the comments right now who is hard at work at prepping and getting products up, getting optimized, getting their store ready for Q4. Give me your hand. Raise up your hand if you're ready. Some of you might be in our Q4 camp, so I know you're ready. You got homework that you're doing right now, but let us know if you are actually getting ready for the big Q4. Let me know there. All right, Chris, let's go ahead and let's just kick this thing off. And let's go over the very first thing. Okay. And again, we titled this, "Do This and the Etsy Algorithm Can't Ignore You in Q4." And this is true. But there's one thing that we must have. And I'm just curious in the comments, do you guys know what that one thing is? Some of you that have been here with us for a while, you might know what this first thing is. What is the first thing that we must have in order to be found, in order to be able to get traffic in the algorithm? Like, what's the one thing that could be missing? And if we don't have this one thing, it's not going to matter what we do. What is that one thing? And Chris, let's see if we can get some answers coming in here and see if we get anybody that comes up with the correct answer. And then what we're going to do is we are going to talk about this, and we are going to also help with, if you are not yet doing this, or if you don't have this yet, how you can start to focus on this. So do we have anybody that has guessed it correctly?
We got a lot of people guessing in the comments. I'm seeing a niche. I'm seeing demand. Somebody a minute ago said email marketing. All these are good ideas. But Scott, what is that one thing?
The one thing, well, I'm going to give the award today to Inked in Time with demand. If we don't have demand, then whatever we do, it's not going to really matter. It's not going to matter one bit what we're doing. It just isn't. So what we need to do, and we've done this in the past, is you need to say, okay, you're expecting the algorithm to show you, okay, and get you traffic and get you sales. That's fine. But if you're taking a product that's not getting searched for, that's or it's getting searched for very little, and you're wondering why you're not making $5,000, or you're not, making $10,000, or you're not getting 100 views a day, it could be because on that type of product, it's not being searched for. And maybe it's just not being searched for yet. That could be. But what you want to do here is, in this time that we have to prep for, Q4, is we want to make sure that the products that we are hoping to get in search, that are going by the algorithm, that we want the algorithm to give us some love, we need to make sure that they even have the potential to get ranked. Okay. Now, one other thing that I hear people saying is, they're like, okay, I went and I found some keywords, and these keywords are they're good keywords. I think people are using these keywords because I've done some research. And then you go ahead and you type in, you even do this. You even go into an incognito window, which you should anyway, right? You go into Etsy, and then you search for that keyword, and you come up number one, and you're like, yes, I did it. I'm ranked. I'm going to get floods of traffic. But there's no one else competing for that because there's no traffic, right? There's just no one that's actually using that keyword. Like, I could put in a long string, right? A long tail keyword, as we call it. Like, I can put that into the search engine, and I can rank for that tomorrow. But what good is it if no one else is really using that search term? Okay. Or if there's just even if it was a 2-word, right? If it was like, or maybe it was 3-word, whatever. It was a shorter one, right? Like something, let's say bass fishing gift for son. Okay. And then you type that in, and you're like, man, if I can get ranked for that, I'm going to have floods of traffic and floods of sales. But no one else is searching for that. And your competition that you're looking at, it's just for a bass fishing sweatshirt. But you put that little bit at the end there, like gift for bass fishing son, or, whatever. And then you show up. It's great to say, wow, I ranked, I'm good. But really, no one else is searching for that. So the very first thing that you need to do is make sure that the products that you are, and I'm not saying all your products, because all your products are not going to be like bestsellers. They're not all going to be the ones that get floods of traffic. But you are going to have, and you should have, 3 to 5. That's our baseline, 3 to 5 products. Those are they're your traffic sources. Okay. They're like the ones that are going to go out there. You know that there's a big demand for it. There, you know, there's a lot of people looking for it. So, you know, those are going to lead people into your store. Those are the ones you want to optimize for. Those are the ones that you want to make sure, like, okay, what can we do to force ourselves into the algorithm? So this way here, Etsy is going to push us, and they're going to want to push us. And the things that we're going to cover here next are going to talk about that and how we can actually influence the algorithm. And I don't want to say trick it, but we can give it what it wants. Okay. We can give it what it wants because the algorithm wants some stuff. Okay. It's not just this made up thing. I mean, Josh Silverman did say it's a black box, right? And that is going to be changing. And there's some things that are coming. And we did a video recently on that. Just recently, it was this week. It was Monday, I believe. And you should check that one out. That was some breaking news that we had got a hold of them having a meeting talking about SEO and where the future is for that. It's going to be different than it is now. So we got to work towards that. But right now, as it is, we kind of know what the algorithm wants. So we have to give the algorithm what it wants. So Chris, anything on that right now that I might have left out as far as the demand piece? Because I know that's where a lot of people struggle. They have products. They're like, these, I have a whole bunch of products, but you didn't do the research to see if there's any demand.
YDS let us know, Scott. He said, well, you're not quite right. The first thing you need is an Etsy account, right? Yeah, we're making some base assumptions. If you're trying to sell in Q4, that you've gotten your account set up, right? Whether you're doing this with the spaghetti at the wall approach or the niche approach that we advocate for, the key to anything that we're doing, Scott, is that demand. And I think where most Etsy sellers get very confused on this, where they get this wrong, is that they look at demand on the keyword side, like you were talking about. A couple other people in the comments said, oh, it's SEO. That's the one thing that you have to have. And when Etsy sellers talk about SEO, what they're talking about is that keyword, right? Making sure you have that big demand keyword in your title. And there's a lot of keywords that will show a lot of searches, places like Etsy, places like Google, that don't actually get a lot of traffic, or that traffic doesn't mean what you think it means, right? And so what we're looking for is a baseline of sales. That's the demand that we need to validate on. And that's where somebody's got like an Everbee comes in really handy, because we can, at the click of a button, really start to understand what products are selling, what products aren't. And if we dive a little bit further into those listings, potentially even understand which products are converting better, which is some of the other things that algorithm is looking for. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But if we're missing out on the sales demand for that product, we're missing out on the entire boat, right? We can have the world's best title, the prettiest pictures, the best designed product, but if nobody's already looking for it, not just searching for it, but looking for it with the intent to make a purchase, then that doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah, I know the question that's going to come up is this, Chris, and I want you to give me your thoughts on it. So you're saying like, okay, it needs to have demand. What's good demand? Like, you know, is that the same for everyone? Is it a number that we hit and we say, oh, if it's getting this, then it's going to be what we, you know, what we need. Is there an exact number, or is there a range? Like, how does someone know that they have a product that has good demand for their, you know, I guess their target?
I know you're setting me up for this because you haven't heard me say it in like 3 days. It depends, right? And it depends on what your goals are. If you're trying to make $5,000 a month, you can look at products that have lower sales velocity. If you're trying to make $10 million a month, then you need to hit a bunch of home runs, right? And so what we like to do is take that monthly goal, and we typically start from a profit first perspective. So if we want to make $300 in profit, we would need to sell 30 products a day at $10 in profit per product, assuming that I can do that business math. That's a big assumption. Y'all can correct me in the comments, right? But that's the math that we start with. And then we say, okay, if we find 3, 4, or 5 that add up to those 30 sales, then that's a good indication that I'm going to be on my way to that. And the demand on those products is sufficient for me. If I want to make 3,000, then that math is a little bit different. Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, no, you hit it. Perfect. And so it does come down to the target. Actually, last week's live, we did a full breakdown on how to hit $30,000 profit in Q4. And that was off of like our numbers. That was our target for the year before. And it's going to be our target for this year. But we actually broke it down and reverse engineered it. If you guys did not watch that one, we will link that up in the description. Chris, also make sure that's linked up in any other resources. So that way there we have those available. But that there we'll link that up in the description probably before the end of this broadcast. So make sure that you go there and you watch that one, because we do a very, very deep dive on how to analyze your number. I use $30,000 profit, not even revenue, top revenue, because at the end of the day, you want to make whatever you want to make and put it into your bank account. It's not necessarily like, oh, I want to make $100,000. That's fine. But you also need to know that with $100,000, if you are netting 30%, then you know that's going to be $30,000. How do we reverse back now? How do we figure out how many products are we going to need to sell? Okay, cool. How much demand are there for these 10 products that we're going to, is there enough demand there to actually hit the numbers? So there's some math that's involved, very easy math, but we do break it down inside of that live. So I would definitely recommend you go and you watch that. Take a notepad with you and a pen, and you'll go right through that exercise with us. All right. So with that being said, all right, now let's say that we have that, right? We're like, yep, got these products. We know that we're going to hit where, if we get traffic, if we get these things, seen, right? Like, it's not like we're just like, creating products and we know that they have demand, but if we actually get them visible, okay, that's the key now. It's not even about, okay, the sales stuff we're going to talk about too, but the very first thing is like, we got to have the opportunity. In order to get the opportunity, we've got to be seen. We have to be found. Okay. It's like, we can have the best product and I can put it over there in the closet and have 25 of them. But if no one knows I have them, no one's going to be able to buy them. So we need to make these products available. And there's a variety of different ways. But the one way we're talking about right now is like, how do we get Etsy to want to push our products? Okay. How do we get Etsy to push our products? Well, we get indexed and we get, the top of the search when someone is searching for something. So that's your SEO, which is going to bring me into the next point, which is, okay, once we validated the demand piece, now we have to talk about optimization. So Chris, let's break this down, and we're going to go basic here, but really important stuff. Okay. Really important stuff. So Chris, why don't you walk us through like the SEO basics that we need to have in place in order for us to give Etsy what it wants, the algorithm. And if we do some of these other things we're going to talk about, it's almost hard for the algorithm to ignore us. Okay. Because we've given them what they want. So can you break that stuff down?
Yeah, and that's the goal, right? We want to be hard to ignore. And I think you said we're not tricking the algorithm, we're encouraging the algorithm, right? And that's really what the goal of any of this stuff is. And Scott, this step, which we kind of made fun of a little bit in step one here, which is making sure we have demand, this is where most people stop. So they start and stop with the basics. And this is what you will typically hear people in the Etsy community refer to as the SEO phase, right? We're going to make sure that our titles, tags, and descriptions have the keywords that people would use in order to find that product. Now, there's a few major caveats to this, Scott, that I think most people miss. The first is that just throwing a bunch of keywords into your title, tags, and description is not actually the best way to do this, even from a basics standpoint. Etsy has come out repeatedly and said, you don't need to repeat stuff. You don't need to shove a bunch of things in there. And actually, we don't really like when you do keyword stuffing. And Scott, that SEO video that you were talking about, Etsy CEO even came out and he said, yeah, there's a lot of bad advice on YouTube about people telling people to put a bunch of keywords in their title, right? All they're doing, all these Etsy SEO videos are on keyword stuffing in titles. It's not what we're talking about. Your title, if we're starting there, does need to have your main keywords in it. And the closer to the front of that title you can get them, the more weight they will have in terms of the way that they look at keywords. But the thing that most people miss is they say, dancing avocado mug, dancing avocado cup, dancing avocado personalized, or something like that, right? Because they're trying to rank for mug, cup, and dancing avocado, and they throw personalization in there. The better way to write that title is in what, Scott, you and I have talked about as a human readable format. Etsy's SEO algorithm, the evil Terminator robot in the back end, understands that a cup, a mug, a tumbler are all potentially the same thing. And so if we get any of those variations into that title, we're going to start to be able to rank for all of those different things, as long as they're relevant to the product that we are selling, right? So the better way to write that title would be personalized dancing avocado mug for Chris, or for people who love avocados or for heavy coffee drinkers or something like that, right? And so the better way to write those titles is always going to be in a human readable format. Descriptions. People often, Scott, we saw this in one of the mini audits that we did just this week in the Q4 camp. They take that same title and they put it in because they think they have to repeat the same keywords. There, you don't. If a keyword shows up in your title, tag, or description anywhere, you are relevant in the eyes of the algorithm for that keyword. Now, will you rank number one for it? That depends on a lot of other things, but you at least are in the running, right? You're at the race. Whether you win or not is not determined by whether you have that keyword 45 places or just one, right? You don't get more relevance for having it in there multiple times. So the better thing to do with the description, your title is already your title. Focus on who the product is for, what the product is made from, and what people can expect with it. And if you want to talk about your design, that's a great place to do that. Tags. This is another place where I see a lot of people mess up. They'll send the same keywords in their tags that they have in their description of their title. Etsy actually says that they prefer longer tail keywords in the tags. And so if you have things that don't make sense or are longer variations, or you just didn't get them in the title and description, that's what your tags are for. And I think the other big mistake, Scott, that we see people make with tags from an SEO basics standpoint is they say tags don't matter. Tags matter. Right? Etsy came out during their Etsy Up event, which they're about to run again last year. And they said, tags matter, y'all. Yep. Tags matter. In the handbook, tags matter. We've run our own experiments with it. Tags matter. You can add a keyword to your tag and suddenly you're relevant for it on ads. You might not be showing up on the organic side yet because it's new, but you're relevant for it on ads. So make sure you're filling out all of the space that you have available and don't just shove random things in there because you think somebody might call this a Tumblr. Right? Make sure that they're still relevant, but that's where you can put in the longer phrases that would make your title and description a little less human readable. And it lets the Etsy robot know that that's what you need. And Scott, I think the other thing, and this is not necessarily SEO related, but it is kind of basics, is the image side of things. And I know we just did the Etsy buyer survey and they told us again and again and again and again that above title, tags, descriptions, all of these kinds of things, that the images are the most important thing and that they often view multiple images. Right. And so we need to make sure that not just that main thumbnail image or video, however we're doing that, is really dialed in, but that we're showing off a variety of different things. So if we're selling this t-shirt in a bunch of different colors, we don't just want to take up all of those photo slots with the different colors. We want to show how it fits on somebody who's athletic, somebody who's less athletic like me, right? Somebody who's large, small, big, tiny, right? It doesn't really matter. We need to show it off in a bunch of different angles. And we see people misusing images because they think that they have to show the same thing over and over in all the different colors or all the different options. And there's a better way to do that. And that's with like a color swatch or something like that. So make sure that with all the time and energy, Scott, that people spend on title and description, typically, that you're spending at least as much, if not a little bit more time on what those images look like.
Yeah. I just want to highlight that real quick. The images are not necessarily directly, like you said, Chris, they're not directly attributed to SEO factors. But what happens from having these images and you converting higher to a sale, that is something that the algorithm is looking at. We're going to get into that in our third thing here, because that's really another thing that pushes your products and your listings inside of the Etsy algorithm. Okay. So images is more of a conversion piece. You have to think about this for a second. I want you to really understand this, that there's a lot of products out there right now that are trying to go after the same search that you are. And it's going to be looking at the title. It's going to be looking at the tags. It's going to be looking at description. Okay. Those are all things that the algorithm has access to. But you have to fill it in. You have to actually tell the algorithm what your listing is about. The image is for the person, the real human, to come there and look at it and then be able to make that decision now to buy it. And then when they buy it, now you're looking at again, the algorithm's looking at all of these different listings. They're all trying to compete. It's looking at, okay, the title, I got it. Okay. The tags. Okay. Got it. All right. Yep. It's covering the same words, right? The same keywords. It's doing that. The description. Okay. We know that this is about this. Good. But then there's conversions. Now there's sales. When Etsy sees sales, now it's going to rate the listings that are pretty much equal. And it's going to go, oh, this here's selling. So let's show that more because it's showing that that's what people are buying. That's what people like. And then the next layer of this would be, okay, let's say that you and 5 other sellers out of 100 are now all getting sales, pretty much equal sales. Well, now it's going to go a level deeper and it's going to go, oh, okay, now how do we analyze what one would actually be better to show more? It's going to be conversion, meaning if 100 people saw this one, 100 people saw this one, 100 people saw this one, and so on, right? If all 100 people saw these 3, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, that one there got 2 sales, that one got 3 sales, and that one got 5 sales. Which one do you think that it wants to show? The one with 5. So now you go to the top of the search. So see, that's how it works. Everyone thinks it's like this cookie cutter, just set up your SEO and you're going to be good. And everybody's the same. Everybody's equal. You're not equal. Chris, what do you want to say? I saw you just slide in there.
So we've jokingly, at least I have, referred to the first step of this, the step that everybody talks about, which is, do you match a keyword, right, with what somebody is searching, as the swipe left, swipe right Tinder test, right? Mm-hmm. So Etsy is looking at it and they're going, hey, I'm looking for a 6 foot tall, really good looking, blonde haired, blue eyed dude, right? And all of them get swiped left on, right? That doesn't mean that they're going on a date with all of those people. They still need to learn their personality. And that's where the other half of this comes in, right? We can do all we want to do from a looks perspective, which is really what that first thing is. But before Etsy wants to go on a date with our product, we have to show them our personality. What is our personality in their eyes? It's when somebody comes to the listing, do they engage with it? Maybe it's not purchases right away. Maybe it's they favorited the product. Maybe it's they added it to their cart. Right? Those are all positive signals. Obviously, purchases are going to be the strongest one because Etsy's goal, right? That gold ring for Etsy is going to be matching that search to the product that the person is the most likely to purchase. But we have to think about that. Everybody thinks that once we match, right? Once we go, oh, that's a cute product, right? Or, oh, yeah, that's a cute product, then that's the end of the game. And it's not, because otherwise they would have no idea where to rank anybody. Because if Scott and I both put dancing avocado mug in our title, they go, okay, now what? And that's the part that everybody forgets about, is the second half of this, which is substantially more important. And thankfully, something we have a heck of a lot more control over. And I know we're going to be talking about that here in just a minute.
Okay. So guys, we just talked about SEO. I know that's always a very important and very, shall I say, just a lot of questions come from SEO. People get confused. It's confusing for a lot of people. Okay. We have a guide that goes through exactly what you need to do to optimize your listing for SEO. If you want that guide, in the comments, just put SEO. We'll send you a copy. Okay. That would be like first step. Like, I want to make sure that you're understanding this. So that's why we're doing this here today. But also then you want to make sure you go through and you go and optimize the best that you possibly can. Because what we're about to talk about, because we just talked about, like, these are the important factors, but now what's the next thing? Like Chris just said, like, okay, now those boxes are checked, but now how do we take what we're going to do here next, which is basically work on conversions and sales. So this way here, we can convert higher. But if we don't have the framework, the base set, the foundation, then the work that we're about to do isn't going to be as effective. Okay. So if you guys want a copy of that, like I said, just put SEO in the comments and we'll make sure that we get you a copy of that. It's an easy read, but it will give you every part of the SEO that we feel is important, but also how you can optimize. So this way here, when you're ready and getting those sales and those conversions, you're going to be able to at least get the best opportunity inside the algorithm from that, okay, from those efforts. So make sure that you download that. If you have any questions on SEO, it'll probably be answered inside of there, all right? So with that being said, let's move on. So we kind of set it up pretty well here that you understand that we have a product that's in demand. So we know that there's enough traffic out there. We know it for our target. Now, again, if you did not go through the last live that we did, where we kind of broke down how to figure out your target, but then also how to figure out the demand that you need to hit your target, make sure that you watch that. We'll link that up in the description as well. Okay. So we have the demand. Number one. Number two, we've optimized our listing to give Etsy what it wants for when someone is searching for that product. Okay. We got those things done. Now, we just talked about the other factor that's going to really separate you is sales and conversion rate. Okay. Sales and conversion rate. So it's one thing to get sales. Yes, that's great. But then there's another level to that that's like, okay, how do we get it to convert higher? Okay. How do we go from a 1% conversion to a 2 or a 3? Because that could be the deciding factor of how much you're pushed over your competitors. Okay. So let's get into it. So how can we get more sales? That's the big question. Like, how do we get more sales? Okay. Assuming we've already done those other two things, we've got good images. Images is going to be that I think that's why Chris was really kind of leaning heavy into the images, because without good images, you can throw all the traffic at it you want, but it's just not going to convert because your images are crappy, right? We have to fix that first. We can't build this thing and kind of like, build it to where it's not fully complete and then send stuff to it. Like, we don't want to open the doors to our business, right? Our new restaurant, if we haven't finished painting it yet, right? We don't want people to go in and go, ooh, I don't know if I want to eat here. It's kind of dirty. It's kind of dusty, right? We want to clean it up. We want to get that thing ready. It's the same idea here, as we want to make this thing polished. Okay. And images is one area that people, and we did a survey on this where people said they look at images, and that is sometimes a major deciding factor. Because if they go in there and they see a crappy image or crappy images, they're just going to be turned off and they're going to leave. Okay. So images are important. That's why I'm really, really stressing there is you have to make sure that your images are high quality and that they are representing the product in all different shapes, sizes, angles, everything, right? You want to make sure that that is showing off. And if you can throw a video in there, even better yet. Okay. That's another thing that Etsy has said, that people that have videos convert higher. So why not take the lead and say, okay, cool, on these products. Now, we're not saying all the products, we're saying the products that are the ones that are in demand that we can focus on, because these are going to drive the bulk of the traffic. Okay. So we got that stuff done. So how do we drive traffic? The very first thing that we're going to do, and Chris is going to go into this a little bit, is basically the Etsy ads. And this is where people are always like, well, I'm going to wait until I start getting sales before I turn on ads. Chris, I don't want you to spend an hour on this, because I know you could, but why do people say, or why shouldn't they say they're going to wait to turn on ads until they get sales? Why is that a bad idea?
Because you're missing out on the traffic and sales you can get from day one by turning ads on, right? And the excuse is typically, well, I want to know if there's demand. I want to know if people are looking for this. If you have launched a product and you haven't done that validation, you've done this backwards, right? You should be confident enough, Scott, by the time that you launch a product, that if you turned on some ads, at least some people are going to look at it. Maybe you don't convert because you got the images wrong, or maybe you got something wrong in the design, but you should at least be confident enough that there's some demand there. And if we're not confident enough, then we miss something in step one. And that's why you and I talk so much about that, and why that's much more important even than the SEO side of things. If there's not demand there, then even turning ads on isn't really going to lead to anything. So turn ads on from day one. It's going to make sure that from day one, we've done everything correctly. It gives us a really good baseline of what's working and what's not, which becomes important as we move further down this road.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you guys through, and I wasn't sure I was going to do this, but I think we have enough time that I can run you guys through it. So this is also in a guide that we put together. If you want to download the guide, you can just in the comments, just put ads, and we will give you access to our guide for running Etsy ads, and really what I'm about to share with you. Okay. So in the very beginning, we've talked about this, but I'm going to talk about it again because there's some people here that haven't heard it, and some people need to hear it again. Okay. So what basically we're saying here is, if you're launching a product, okay, you're launching a product, no one knows that the product even exists, and you want to get yourself in the algorithm, you want to get yourself in search, you want to get sales. The very first thing that you need to start thinking about is, how can I get eyeballs as quick as humanly possible? And the way you're going to do that is through Etsy ads. Okay. Now, what we do is we generally start with a low budget, even $2, $5, if you want to go crazy, and you turn them on. But the key here is again, making sure that we have everything else done beforehand to make that listing pretty, right? Make it polished. And so the other thing that we want to do, and this is another thing that we hear a lot of people not wanting to do, is we will discount, okay? We'll discount our product sometimes to just over break even for 7 days. Why would we do this? Why would we spend money, $5 a day, let's say, for 7 days, $35? Why would we take that $35 and basically just run it and then also sell the product, you might as well say, for almost at a loss? Like, why would you do that? It's a couple different reasons. The first reason is because we want to get eyeballs on day one and we want to get sales as quick as we can. So we're willing to sacrifice, okay, we're willing to sacrifice profit up front because we know that we are injecting sales into the algorithm for our product. Now, again, this is why images are important. This is why, having your descriptions well written, all of that stuff is important, because then we also want a higher conversion rate. Okay. We want a higher conversion rate out of the gate. And by having those other things in place, that will help us increase that. The other thing that's going to happen is we're going to now get some reviews, because reviews are naturally going to happen. What do reviews do? They make people feel confident and comfortable that this is the right product to buy because other people have already done it and they've had good things to say about it. So what does that do? It gets someone that's on the fence to jump over the fence and go, I want to buy one. Okay. And so we're sacrificing the early profits in order to spike sales so we can then inject them into the algorithm as fast as possible. And here's the good news. The good news is a lot of Etsy sellers ain't willing to do this. They're just not. The reason why is because they're thinking, I'm just going to put up a product and I am going to sell it for $29.99 and I'm going to make my $10 profit and I'm not going to budge. I'm not going to budge. And guess what? They're not going to sell any, or they're going to sell one to your 10. Okay. So it's really important to get your mindset right business-wise. Okay. Business-wise, we have to think like a business. If you're opening a new business, you got to get eyeballs, right? So how do you get eyeballs? Generally, you're going to say, hey, this weekend, we're going to have free hot dogs and hamburgers, and we're going to have a DJ, and we're going to have, whatever, prizes for the kids, right? And you're getting people in the door. You're spending money on that because it's advertising. So what you're doing here is the same thing. You're just doing it a different way. Okay. You're turning on ads, spending money, maybe reducing your price. Okay. So this way here, we can, again, have a discount where people are always buying off of discounts because that's what they like. Okay. And then we're also injecting sales into the algorithm, and we're also building reviews on that product. So this way here, it converts higher in the future. So everything's about the future. And if you do this leading into Q4, when all that traffic starts to come, guess who's on top of the mountain? Right here. Okay. So we're willing to sacrifice that up front to reap the benefits on the tail end. Chris, did I leave anything out on that?
No, I think the biggest thing, and somebody said this in the comments, right? Inked in Time, you have to spend money to make money. And that's a great mindset to have, but I don't think that's the end all be all of this. What we're doing when we're driving traffic, whether it's with Etsy ads, which is a great way to do it, and anybody, even brand new sellers, can do it, right? Or you're doing something like sending email traffic, right? The goal of that is to give Etsy what they want. And when we think about the Etsy algorithm, again, we've already met that test. Everybody's met that test. They said, cool, this is a product that the person is looking for. Now what, right? And Etsy does give new listings a boost, but that's not generally enough to give them all of the data that they would need to say, hey, this product has been selling for 6 years. This one's a new one, right? Maybe they give you a few views, a few impressions, maybe you even get a few clicks out of it, but it's not going to give you the volume of data that you need, especially if we're talking about in the context of Q4, Scott, the limited time that we have to get that exposure with listings we are launching now. that will not come on the organic side unless we give it a push, unless we give it the additional information. How do we do that? One of the best ways to do that is with Etsy ads, right? Turn those ads on, make sure that the traffic that's coming in is relevant, make sure that those are converting, right? It's very easy to do if we're looking at the Etsy ads data. If we have an email list or we're doing a product giveaway, that's another great way to start to drive that early traffic over. And if we can get that early traffic, we can get some early favorites, sales, abandoned carts, all of the good things that come along with people looking at our listings, Scott. That gets us a long way down the road of getting ahead of that Etsy SEO flywheel. And I think the other thing it does, and this will come up again here in just a minute, is it lets us say, ooh, I missed something in the title. Right? I'm showing really well for this keyword on ads, but I'm not showing for it organically. Or when people see me for this on ads, then they buy. So how do I make sure that my listing is better set up to do that? And if we don't do that, then we have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months in a lot of cases to be able to make those decisions from the limited, even though we're rolling out the beta search analytics into a real search analytics platform, right? The limited data we get on the organic side, even if we wait those 3, 4, 5, 6 months, is not going to give us everything that we get from the ads data and from that early traffic. So if you're not driving traffic to your listings, you're missing out on not just early sales and all of the data, but you're potentially waiting longer to get to a place where you should be anyway.
Yeah. Chris, can you just check that link too? Also, that was in the description. It sounds like it's going over to a different page. Let's see here. I did have something I wanted to address here. Okay, so RA Ship says, I spent $300. I got nothing. Okay, so I would go back to the drawing board and I'd say, why did I spend $300? That means you got clicks.
You didn't get nothing.
Right. You
got data.
Clicks, you got data. So now we know, okay, like we got clicks. People went over there, they didn't buy. So there's got to be something over here on the listing side that we must have not done good on the optimization. Now, I'm not saying that your optimization is bad, but if people are clicking and they're not buying out of $300, and I'm going to guess here, you've had over 100 clicks. That means I had 100 people go over there. If you didn't get one sale out of 100 clicks, there's something broken on the listing, or there's something broken on the keywords that are being used to find your product. And that could be because now you have to look at the keywords that you have, that you're in your title, in your tags, in your description. They might be too broad. So when someone's searching for a bass fishing gift for son, and you're showing up just for bass fishing, it's off, right? It's not the exact thing that they're looking for, or it's not close enough. It's too broad. So then what you need to do is you need to go through that. You spent $300. You've got data, my friend. You've got data. Now you go in there and you can go, okay, these keywords drove traffic over here and people clicked on it, but they didn't buy. Why? Well, it's too broad, right? If I'm selling a cedar wooden reclaimed wood shelf, and someone is searching for a reclaimed wood shelf, and I'm showing up for just the keyword wood, it's too broad, right? Wood could be, someone wants a piece of wood for a desk, or they want a piece of wood for building a box, right? Like there's all different things that could come off of wood. But if we're showing up for reclaimed wood, now we're closer. Okay. So I would go through that ad spend and whatever you spent, and I'd look at that and I'd mine through that data and I'd see, okay, where can I learn from this? And then look at your listing. So I'm glad that you posted that, because that brings up a great point.
Yeah. And they said almost 2,800 clicks, right?
Holy
and no sales. That tells me we missed something in the keywords, right? And this is the thing. Most people they're like, oh, it's $3 a day. I'll turn Etsy ads on, and they just light it on fire, right? The thing that we're forgetting here is we have to come back in and do the sculpting. And if you guys want that guide, I think it's the Etsy Ads Made Easy guide, right? That is something that you can get. Just comment ads and we'll make sure that you get that. It'll walk you through that whole process. But I think that is the thing that people miss. And when I see something like that, right, I got 2,800 clicks or 2,759 clicks and no sales, that tells me we have a conversion rate problem. And that comes from one of two places. Either our listing is somehow incorrect, right? We missed something with the photos. It's not matching expectations. Or, and this is the more likely case when those come, especially early on from ads is that we fell into that would category that you were just talking about, right? It's something that is technically applicable to the product, but not something that people would expect to find when they're searching for wood or cup or whatever it is. So we want to go in and turn those off and let that budget be used for things that say dancing avocado mug, not just coffee mug, the things that will actually indicate somebody's willing to purchase what it is that we are selling. And that's the optimization side of this that most people just kind of forget about.
Yeah. And they said here, actually, after the ads were turned off, right, they had 148 favorited and 28 sold, I think. And so, yeah. And here's why. Probably because the 2,700 some odd clicks were the wrong clicks. They were off of these really broad, super broad keywords that didn't actually pertain to the person that clicked. It was off. So that's where, I mean, you kind of got to look at that stuff early. I would say after you've had 100 clicks, you should be looking at the data. Okay. 100 clicks. I would hope that you would get one sale. Okay. That's the bare minimum. That's 1% conversion rate. Okay. If you're not, then we got to go back to the drawing board. And we got to see, where are they putting my listing in front, or who are they putting it in front of? People that search for what? And then you have to say, does that match? Because a lot of people, they think just because it's close, they're like, yeah, well, my product's made out of wood. Why don't I want to show up for wood? Because that's not what someone is actually, they're there going like, they're going to type in wood, right? No, they're going to type in wooden, reclaimed wood sign, or wooden Christmas sign, right? Like they're going to type in those other things. If you have a wood sign, but you're selling a wooden Christmas sign, you might not want to show up for wood sign. It's not targeted enough. So we just have to be careful with that.
And I know this is not an ads masterclass, but how do we know, Scott? How do we know if the keyword is relevant enough to the product to leave it on? Well, the obvious indication is that we're making a bunch of sales from it, right? But the other one is just to go to Etsy and type it in and see what Etsy thinks is relevant for that keyword. And if we go to Etsy, we type in wood, we can see they don't even really know, right? I have this pulled up on my side right now. The first thing that shows up for me is a live edge floating shelf. Then there's a standing desk with a live edge. Then there's a bunch of wooden coasters. There's a bunch of wooden, looks like either rulers or bookmarks, right? So they don't even really know what that ideal thing is to show for that, because people mean so many different things by it. And if we're selling something made out of wood and it's not dominating the search results for that keyword, and obviously it's not profitable, right? I'm going to leave wood on all day if I'm making profit from it. But if it's not profitable for us, and when we look at what Etsy thinks of when somebody types in that keyword and it's not exactly our product, go in and turn it off.
Yeah. And I would say also, like anybody that's, and this is just, I'm kind of spitballing here. Like something on like that, someone that gets 2,700 clicks, if you want us to actually like look at that and use that as a case study where we can actually open up your dashboard and kind of dig through, we would be willing to do that as a lesson to share with everyone else. Cause I'm sure if we did that, we're going to find something. And then that way there, you would know and they would know. So if you're up for that, obviously we'd be pulling up your shop and then we'd have to dig into your analytics of that. But if you're down for that, let us know. And maybe we can even do that. Maybe our next live session, we can leave a little bit of time for that, because I know a lot of people are struggling with that.
This is the other thing, and I don't want to dive into a whole case study here, but I think one thing that people need to keep in mind is when we're looking at ads data, the first thing that we're looking at is what we refer to as the 1% rule. So are we getting a 1% click-through rate? And then are we getting a 1% conversion rate? In this case, we're seeing 565 clicks, 6 orders. That's good, right? That's a 1% conversion rate. That's the bare minimum that we would want to see for this. The place where we potentially have an issue is we're getting 30,000 views, right? We're being shown 30,000 times and we're only getting 565 clicks. So maybe it's the photos, maybe it's the price. And she said, maybe my price is too low. And I think this is something, it actually came up, Scott, in the Q2 call where one of the investors said, how do you get Etsy sellers to charge more for their stuff? And he said, they have to understand that there's value for your products. If you are undercharging, that's almost as bad, if not worse, than overcharging for something that people are looking for. And so people will assume it's cheap and not of the same quality as the things that are higher priced. So Rachel, that is something that you would want to take a look at. I don't think that's going to be the determining factor. My guess is if you dive in and look at the ads data, you're going to fall into that wood type of a thing where a lot of those things aren't necessarily relevant exactly to what it is that you are selling. But if they are, then take a look at the images and the pricing of your competitors and make sure that you're at least on par with those things.
Yeah. I also think too, while we're on that I had a few people that did say, hey, I would do that. If you want to open up my dashboard and tell me what what we can do better. But if you guys are interested in getting an audit done, a full audit, we're actually in season 2 of our Etsy shop audits, and we're actually, we're going through the list, and we're going to be picking some new ones to do. If you're interested in doing a full-fledged audit, we can dive into ads a lot. If you're interested in that, head on over to brandcreators.com/audit. Those are free to do. You will be with us live. We will be on camera. We batch record these, and we do it in front of a live audience with our Backstage Pass Club, which, by the way, if you want to join our club, just click join on YouTube, and you'll see the details there. It's under $10 a month, and you'll be able to get in on those live batch recording calls. But we're going to be doing another session here in another week or two, and we're reaching out to sellers right now. So if you're interested, go fill that out, and we'll be in touch to potentially do an audit, or you could potentially be on one of the audit sessions. So if you're interested, let us know on that as well. All right, cool. So let's keep moving here, Chris. We've got more to cover here. And I knew we were going to open up a can of worms there on the old Etsy ads thing, which kind of makes me think like we should probably do a full dedicated live for Q4 Etsy ads and strategy and things like that. So the ads thing, okay. Why are we doing this? Because we want to drive traffic. We want to get traffic as quick as possible so we can then get sales, get conversions, get reviews. And if we do that before the big rush of Q4, it's going to set ourselves up to be in search, in organic, and convert even higher. Okay. Another couple of different ways, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, but another couple of ways that you can drive sales, okay, is number one, start building an email list. And a way that you can do this is you can run a giveaway. And so this has worked really well for us. This brings awareness to your brand. You build an email list at the same time, and you sell some stuff. All right. So how this works is you would take, I don't know, 3 of your products, 5 of your products, and then you would create a little bundle. Okay. And this is why for us, it's always about creating products that serve a niche, because if we're talking about someone who's into bass fishing, we're going to create the ultimate bass fishing bundle for the bass fishing person. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run a little cheap ad over on Facebook, and we're going to target people that are interested in bass fishing. And then from there, we're going to drive them over to a landing page that basically lets them know about our giveaway. They would enter their name and email address to enter. From there, we would then let them know as soon as we announce the winner. Okay. Now, the cool thing is everybody that raised their hand, they're interested in what we have to sell because they entered their name into the hat. Now, the cool thing is from here is we get to then email them and let them know, sorry, you didn't win. One person did, but the others didn't. You didn't win, but you're still a winner because we're going to give you 25% off for the next 3 days. And then you basically push to your products, the same products that they raised their hand for. Okay. Other cool thing is once this is all over with, we still have them on our email list, and we can send them new products when we release them, or, hey, hurry up before Halloween, or, hey, hurry up before Thanksgiving, or, hey, hurry up before Christmas. There's all these things that we can do with email once we have that list. So that's another way to bring awareness, also to build an email list, and to also infuse more sales, which basically will help us get into the algorithm like we just talked about. So that's the giveaway thing. I'm not going to spend too much time there. The other one is just straight up leveraging email if you currently have it. So if you have an email list right now, I don't care if it's even 20 people, you want to take those people and you want to let them know you're having a sale on a new product. If you're listing a new product, just like you would with an ad, right? If your ad, you're running for 7 days and you're going to discount it at 25% off, you should probably email your list the same darn thing. Because remember, the more traffic we get there, the targeted traffic, the more targeted traffic. That's what I'm trying to say. Once we get that there, we have a greater chance of selling. And if we have more chance of selling, we're going to be able to increase the sales, which then, everything we just talked about. Okay. So all of that to say, email is a huge driver, and you definitely do not want to skip out on that. All right. So some people, they're like, email's too confusing. I don't know if I want to do it. Does Etsy really let us send emails to people? Yes, they do. That's a big myth out there that people are saying Etsy doesn't want us to send email. No, they don't want you to send email to people that don't raise their hand to receive email. That's it. That's all they're saying. Okay. They actually have a share and save link that they created for us to encourage us and reward us for sending our own traffic. Okay. So let's just put our common sense hat on for a minute. Why would they give us that if they didn't want us to drive our own traffic? Chris, I saw you popped in. You want to say something there?
So yeah, like one way they get attention of Etsy customers is by sending those annoying pop-up notifications to people who have the app. But you know what else Etsy does to drive people to
What's
Etsy,
that,
Scott?
Chris?
It's almost like they send emails, right? They send emails to Etsy customers and say, hey, go check this out. Or, hey, you left this in your cart. Or, hey, you favorited this. Come back and get it. Hey, do you want 10% more from this person? They literally have email marketing built into the back end of Etsy through the internal marketing triggers. Now, that we shouldn't just rely on that. But for everybody who's like, Etsy doesn't like email, they hate email. First of all, it's everywhere in the handbook. And like you were saying, Scott, the only thing that they don't like is people emailing people, driving them to Etsy if they haven't raised their hand to be heard from. So I think people need to kind of get over that hurdle. They need to understand that it is allowed as long as we're not just stealing data and putting a bunch of people on a list that haven't raised their hand. And Etsy actually encourages it. And that's part of the reason they created the share and save program. So as long as we're doing this right, we can take advantage of it. Right. And that is the thing. And for everybody who's like, Etsy's totally against email, Etsy sends emails because they know that it works. Right. And our emails, because they're not filled with a bunch of different links and a bunch of different stuff, actually work better and have a higher chance of being open because it's people who really want to hear from us and not just somebody who bought something on Etsy once.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to also let you guys know, email. Yes, we have a guide for that as well. We created guides for every aspect of this because we get asked questions all the time. And we have students that go through our trainings and we create them for those, students, but we're going to give our guides away to you because we want you to have them so you get the basics down. Email is a big one. And this is probably one of our bigger guides. If you want that guide in the comments, just put email and we'll send it to you. It goes through the giveaway model that we use. It's basically our email playbook. Also some email marketing strategies. It's all packed in that guide. If you want that, just put email in the comments and we'll send it to you. All right. So let's keep moving here. We got more to cover and I want to make sure that we can get to everything. And there are questions coming in, ads, emails, all that stuff. We will definitely be answering those. So just hang tight. Okay. All right. So the last thing I want to say here, and it kind of goes with everything that we just talked about, but the fourth and final thing is we need to make sales and optimizing for sales our priority. So this is like, once we get everything going, everything running, we're getting the traffic in there. We're starting to convert to some sales. Now it's a matter of how do we optimize and go from a 1% conversion to a 1.5, to a 2, to a 4. How do we do that? So Chris, what would you say to someone that's done everything so far? They're everything pretty much correctly, and they are getting a 1% conversion. What should be the main focus at this point?
Yeah. And I think number 4 is really just going through steps 2 and 3 over and over and over again until we get to where we want to be, right? If we've done the demand validation, we can kind of do that just the one time. Once we've done that, we know that there's demand there, but the basics, the SEO stuff, the image stuff that we were talking about, driving traffic, and then focusing on sales and optimization, that is really the flywheel that we should be on to get in front of the Etsy SEO algorithm. So if you get to this point, you've done the basics, right? You've made sure that there's demand, you've gotten your title and tags squared away, you got some good images in there, you've started driving traffic. What now? Well, what's working, right? So focus on what's working. If we have some ads data from Etsy ads, this is when we're going to come in now and do some of that keyword sculpting, Scott, that you and I were talking about. Which keywords, when someone clicks on them, are leading to a sale? That's extremely informative. And it's something a lot of people just leave on the table. And the reason they do is because it's on the ad side of things. They go, okay, this is working for ads. But the lesson we need to learn from that, one of the reasons, Scott, you and I are such big fans of ads, is because it tells us the keywords people are typing in and then buying our product from day one. right? So let's go back. Let's take a look at our title tags and descriptions. One, let's make sure that we're included for that. And two, if we have something that's really outperforming, maybe we rewrite the title a little bit to be more inclusive of that keyword and make it a little bit more called out. If we're looking, Scott, at a specific conversion rate, we say we're at that 1%, we're hitting that baseline, then we need to go back and take a look, who is converting better, right? So let's take a look at the keywords that are driving the sales, see if we can find a listing who is converting better. Again, one of the easiest ways to do this is just to look at the conversion rate that you get when you run the Everbee data. They will show you for each listing what their projected conversion rate is based on their traffic and sales. And if we see somebody who's converting at 3, 4, 5%, that's a listing we probably want to model. We want to take a look at their listing, take a look at our listing, say, what are they doing in their title that's different? What are they doing in the photos that's different than what I'm doing, right? Those are going to be the big movers on conversion rate. So once we've gone through, we've done the basics, we take a look at the data and let the data tell us, okay, I need to go back and do a little bit more work, right? Because I'm below that 1% or I'm right at that 1%. I think I can do better. Or I'm converting at 5%. Let's rock and roll and we can move on to the next product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's going to lead me to basically recapping everything, Chris, because we just covered a ton. And I know that there's going to be people out there that are going to watch this later that are going to be like, man, I just wish that we could have had a 10-minute version of that. So what I want to do here, Chris, I want to do a general recap and maybe just hit all those points. So let me go ahead and tee it up here. And guys, if you have any questions, let us know. Someone just popped in and said, hey, I saw that something's going on with Temu and hot water. What's on that? We're going to be sharing that here shortly. So hang tight. And we have also another thing I want to share with you. There's 2 mistakes that are going to cost Etsy sellers in Q4 thousands of dollars in lost sales. And that's what we're going to be covering. And we kind of touched on it a little bit here, but we're going to go deeper. And I want to make sure that we're clear on that, but also that you start capitalizing now versus waiting, because if you don't, you will be one of the ones that is losing out on thousands that could have been made in sales. All right. So with that being said, let me tee her up here, Chris, and let's get rocking and rolling. So Q4 is here pretty much. And there are 4 steps that we can take to push our products. So this way here, we have a much greater chance of showing up in the Etsy search and the algorithm. And what I want to do here is have Chris do a recap of a live stream that we just did. And this way here, you can have these 4 steps, these 4 key points to helping you crush Q4. So Chris, take it away. What are the 4 things?
Scott, I think the first and probably the biggest thing, and this is something that almost everyone misses in this process, is that we have to make sure there's demand. And when we say demand, we're not talking about how many people are searching for a certain thing. What we actually care about here is how many people are buying something. And the easiest way to do that is with something like Everbee, right? You take a look at the individual product or at the search results for a keyword, and you can see a pretty good estimation of what people are selling there, right? We have to start with this. Why do we have to start with things that people are already buying? Because we can have the best designed, most SEO optimized, prettiest images. And if no one is searching for it, and not just searching for it, but searching for it with the intent to buy it, then all of that effort was wasted. And the natural follow-up question that we get to this, Scott, is, okay, I get it. We have to find products that are in demand, but how much demand should I be looking for? And this is where I would stereotypically say, it depends, right? It depends on how much demand you need to meet your goals. And we actually, Scott, did a full live stream that we can link up here, either in the description or somewhere as we're doing this, and broke down how we look at this. But the main way that we look at this really quickly is we look at this profit first. So if we want to make, let's just say $100 a day, and we know we can make $10 per product, that would mean across all of the products that we're looking to launch, we would need 10 sales per day, right? 10 sales at $10 profit would give us $100 a day. Obviously, if you want to make $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, you can scale that up accordingly. But if we're missing out on the demand side of things, and we're not doing that profit calculation to begin with, it doesn't matter what we launch. It doesn't matter how much traffic we drive. It doesn't matter what we're doing. If no one's looking for it and it's not going to help us meet our goals, then we've missed the boat entirely. So once we get through that demand validation, right, we've run the numbers with Everbee. We know that the product that we are launching is going to be something that will help us get to not just our income goal, but our profit goal. What next? And that's where we come into just doing the basics. And this is where most people start and stop their product launch process, whether it's in Q4 or throughout the rest of the year. And what am I talking about here? Doing the basics. This is your listing creation, making sure that we have an SEO optimized title, tags, description, and good quality images on this. Now, when I say SEO optimized, what do I mean by that? I do not mean stuffing every keyword that everybody could possibly use to describe a dancing avocado mug into our title, tag, and descriptions. It needs to be human readable. Etsy says everywhere, the CEO has come out and even said, hey, you don't need to keyword stuff. If you're mentioning it, it's more than enough to get you found. And the rest depends on some of the other things that we're going to talk about. So instead of trying to shove in every variation of cup, mug, teacup, coffee tumbler, all of those things into our title, tags, and descriptions, focus on making it human readable. Personalized dancing avocado mug is going to actually be a better title in most cases than dancing avocado mug, teacup, coffee tumbler, whatever, right? One, because Etsy knows very clearly what it is, and they can infer all of those other things from the keywords that we've chosen to use. And two, it is human readable, which is something that, according to the Etsy buyer survey, was extremely important in terms of the description. A big mistake that we see people making, whether it's in Q4 or throughout the rest of the year, is they take that title and they paste it in the top of the description, and that's the first thing that people see. Why? Because they think they have to repeat those keywords. One, they're already there. Two, that's a really weird experience for somebody who's trying to learn more about the product. So rather than doing that, make sure that your description is written in a way that tells people what the product is, who it's for, and how it's made. And if we do that, then we can actually squeeze in a lot of those other keywords that we wouldn't have been able to shove into that title no matter how many times we tried. And it's still done in a human readable format. Tags, Etsy tags, everybody has their own opinion on them. The fact is, Etsy tags work. Etsy has told us that they rely on tags, at least at this point, right? They're making some changes to the algorithm, but they're still reliant on those tags. Make sure you are filling those out. Do you have to fill in all 13? You should if you can, right? If you run out of things to say about the product and you have 12, it's not going to stop you from getting found. But if you have another keyword or another way to describe the product that you haven't already used, fill those in. They do make a big difference. The last thing in terms of getting the basics right are the images. And Scott, I know you and I have talked about the Etsy buyer survey that we ran. Buyers told us above title, above description, above price, above shipping, above pretty much everything else, the number one thing that determines whether they're going to buy something or not is the images. And so if we're not doing images that are attractive to our customer, we haven't done the basics right. And we'll get into a little bit more about why that's important here in just a little bit. But if we're doing these things to the best of our ability from the beginning, that's going to set us up for success in the SEO algorithm. And I think where a lot of people get confused, Scott, is they say, okay, my keyword matches, I don't have to do anything else. And the sad truth is that's just the first part of how Etsy's SEO algorithm works. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Because if Scott and I both launch a dancing avocado mug, how do they know which one to show? And the answer is they rely on all of the other information that they have about you and your product, because Etsy's goal at the end of the day is to match the person who is searching with the product that they are going to purchase. How do they know that? They know that through everything else that happens. And that brings us, Scott, to step number 3, which is driving traffic. Etsy's SEO algorithm thrives on two main things: traffic and sales. And we can launch a product and we can do the hope and pray method. We can do the if you build it, they will come field of dreams approach. And we can wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months for us to go through that Etsy listing boost phase and get some traffic and drips and drabs. Or we can get the Etsy SEO algorithm all of the information it needs to know about our product essentially from day one. How do we do that? You guys have heard us talk in the past about Etsy ads. I'm a huge fan of it as long as you're running them correctly. We don't have to spend $10, $20, $50 a day to figure this stuff out. $3 to $5 a day in most cases is more than enough to get us headed in the right direction. The other hidden benefit of Etsy ads, even if we don't make a sale from this, Scott, is that we're getting all of the data that the algorithm is using, right? We get to look at it in a nice little format. And I know that numbers and words can be confusing when we start to look at this report, but we need to start to take the time to really understand what that data is telling us. When we look at the data we get back from Etsy ads, what Etsy is telling us is when someone types this in, this is what happens. Either we show you and nothing happens, we show you and they click, we show you and they click and buy, right? If we start to see that come up again and again on a keyword, we know that that is something that's going to work for us again and again, and we can start to optimize the listing for it We can double down on ads, and we can come back in and say, maybe we shouldn't be showing for this keyword. Turn that off in ads. Make sure that if we're showing up for that keyword organically, maybe we take that out of the listing, some of those kinds of things. So driving traffic, especially with Etsy ads, is something I think a lot of people miss out on for a bunch of reasons. The first is you get all of that data. And second, you get it much, much faster. You don't have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months. We can get all of the relevant data in just a few weeks. And if we're talking specifically about something like Q4, and we're talking right now, as of the time that we're recording this video, the faster we can get that data, the faster we get in front of that snowball. And if we're not doing that right now, we're going to get left behind. Ads aren't the only way to drive traffic. The other way that I would suggest doing this, and if you've listened to this channel for any length of time, you've probably heard both Scott and I separately go on rants about this. It's going to be with email traffic, right? If you're not building an email list, you're missing out on not just the highest return on investment marketing activity that anybody in the e-commerce world can do, but a hidden source of free traffic that doesn't just send people to those listings, but they're also extremely likely to convert. So you get 2 bonuses for the price of 1. And the question we always get when we talk about email marketing is, Scott, Chris, I thought Etsy said you can't send emails. You absolutely can send emails. The only thing you can't do is scrape a bunch of people out of the back end of Etsy and send them emails if they haven't asked you to, right? If you want to send emails to people, they have to opt in to the list. And this leads me to the traffic driving strategy number 3, Scott, which is what we've referred to as the fishbowl or the giveaway method. If you guys want more on that, you can get that by commenting email down below, and we'll walk you through the entire way that we build and run our giveaways and build our email lists. But if we do this, it's a great way to find people who are interested in our products and start to build that email list. And because we're doing it around a specific product or group of products, when that giveaway is over, yes, we have one winner. So Scott wins the dancing avocado mug. Cool. What about the other 5,000 people that opted in for the giveaway? Well, we send them an email too. And we say, hey, everybody's a winner here at Chris's Avocado Mug Emporium. Go check it out. We'll give you 20% off because we want you to feel like you walked away with something as well. By the way, Scotty V won the Dancing Avocado Mug, but if you still want your chance, you can check it out here. And we're driving traffic and sales from the giveaway as well. And we get this nice side benefit that we've built the email list. So if we're not driving traffic, if we're not utilizing email, we're not utilizing Etsy ads, Scott, it's very easy, especially during Q4, for the algorithm to ignore us, even if we've done some of the basics right. We've gotten those keywords in there. It's very easy to get ignored. The last thing, and I think this is another thing that just gets left behind, left on the table, is that once we've done the basics, we've made sure that there's demand, we've added in our keywords, we've gotten some good images, and we've started to drive traffic, that our job as the shop owner is to focus on driving sales and optimization. This is where that data from Etsy ads comes in really handy. We need to be looking at our listing and saying, okay, I'm converting at 1%. How are my competitors converting? We go back to something like Everbee. We take a look at how our competitive listings are converting. Are they converting at that 1%? Okay, we're probably in the right ballpark. Are they converting at 4 or 5%? Now it's our job to come back, take a look at their listing and say, hey, what are they doing that I am not? Or is there something they're doing in their images that I am not, right? What is the reason that when somebody comes to their listing, they're 5 times more likely to buy? And we have to take a step back and say, what did we miss in step 2 here? Right? What did we miss in the basics? Is it just they're getting traffic from a different keyword? Is it that their images are doing this one weird thing, right? Figure out what they are doing, make a few tweaks to the listing based on what you're seeing your higher converting competitors are doing, what the data you're getting back, both on the organic and paid side from Etsy is telling you, and grow your sales and optimization that way.
Perfect. Yeah, you rocked it. A lot there, right? There's a lot there. That's why we wanted to do that recap for you. The live stream obviously went a little deeper, and we'll link everything up in the description if you want to watch that full live stream, or who knows, maybe we'll put it up on the screen right here and you can go ahead and watch the live stream. But everything is there. All you need to do now is execute it in those steps, or through those steps, and in that order. All right. So Chris covered a ton. We've got a couple more things that we want to cover here. We do have questions. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to squeeze it all in, but we're going to do our best. So you want to answer a couple questions, and then from there, we'll dive into the 2 things that, well, sellers should be doing and preparing for right now in order to take advantage of thousands in sales, or should I say not miss out on thousands of sales?
That will cost them thousands of dollars in
Yeah,
sales?
that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of questions I think we can answer pretty quickly. So let's start knocking through that list. The first one came from Gallup Graphics. It's a question for later. Is it worth using keywords in the file name for listing graphics? So here's the deal. It's not going to hurt you, but it's also not really going to help you. Etsy, at least historically, randomizes the file name so that they don't have any of those issues, right? But the place that people miss out on the SEO side of things, Scott, and on the legal requirement side of things is when you upload an image, you should be filling out the alt description of what that image is. Etsy does look at that. It's not weighted as heavily as title, tags, or description because it's a description of an image. But if you're looking to get an extra little leg up or another way to describe your product and you want it to be in a place that doesn't make it human unfriendly, the alt description inside of your listing images is something you should be filling out anyway. And it's something that Etsy has said in the past that they do rely on a little bit to give them some more information on the SEO side of things. T. Diana said, how can I utilize Instagram traffic to drive to my Etsy? So we were talking all about driving traffic. What I would say, and I mentioned this quickly to her in the comments, that is the last place that I would probably look for traffic. Instagram is a flywheel that you have to feed constantly if you want any benefit out of it. We're not huge fans of social media. Generally speaking, there are a few exceptions to that in terms of driving traffic like Pinterest, where it's a little bit more evergreen. But what I'd rather see you do is focus that same time, energy, and effort on really mastering Etsy ads upfront and then starting to build the email list, because those are two sources of traffic that are much more highly likely to convert than somebody coming over from Instagram. If you're looking for just, hey, how do I do it? Yeah, you put the link in your description or in a link tree in your description. That's pretty much the only method that you have on Instagram to be able to do that. You can run ads, but I'd rather see you running that ad money to something like a giveaway, if that's what you're going to be doing, so that you at least capture the email address in the short term.
Well, I was going to say there, Chris, so if you have any type of influence, any type of audience, then yes, maybe what you do is you do the giveaway model, right? So you're going to advertise a giveaway, and this way here, you're depositing a goodwill piece. And then from there, people can go to the link in your bio and it'll take them to the giveaway. If they go to the giveaway, they're going to enter their name and email address. And now we take them off platform of Instagram, where we're relying on another algorithm, by the way. And we have to, like Chris said, constantly feed that. If we can get those people onto our email list, we can remind them of the giveaway, but we can also remind them of our shop and what we offer. If you're going to run a coupon, that would be another way. Like, hey, for my followers, I'm giving 25% off on my whatever in my Etsy shop. I'll put the link in my description, or create a special VIP link. That's what we recommend. And you would say, bassfishingvip.com. And then they would go there and they would be able to type it in because it's a shorter URL. That's how I would leverage any type of social media traffic that's not search-based. TikTok is becoming more search-based, so there is a little bit of a better return there. But I still personally would rather see you spend your time on the platform first, maximizing that. And like Chris said, and then from there, using the external sources that we talked about. But to really get people on an email list, that would be the goal.
Angelino said, what are the chances of selling on Etsy without running ads? The chances are good. The reason we're huge fans of ads is, one, for lack of a better term, they're additive, right? So even if we rank number one, if we're running an ad and we take up 2 spots on that first page, we typically will see more sales. I'd say 95% of the time, I've seen more sales come from that. 2, you start selling more faster for all of the reasons that we've talked about. 1, they're indifferent about how many times they show you as long as there's ad inventory left. So you get the data back faster. But 2, if you can get a few sales from ads or a few clicks and then some favorites and some add to carts, that starts to give the organic side of the algorithm all of the information that it needs to really understand where you should be placed. So we're a huge fan of it because it speeds up the process and it adds to your overall sales volume. Do you need it? No, you can do this without spending a dime on Etsy ads in most cases. Is it helpful? Absolutely.
Okay, so let me rephrase this. I like that, in the right situation. And Chris, this is where I want to kind of have this conversation with you. The question wasn't direct enough. And here's the question I would want you to answer. If I'm competing against 5 other people that are selling the same thing and they're getting sales, can I get sales without running ads?
Yes. Are you going to get as many as you should, or are you going to be competitive? Probably not. And that I think, Scott, is one of the things that a lot of people miss. We talk about sales and conversions. The thing that gets missed there is velocity, right? And volume. So if you're getting 10 sales a day and I'm getting 2, even if I have a higher conversion rate than you do, when they start to test us against each other, they go, okay, so people just aren't buying this when I show it.
Yeah.
Right. And so what we need to do is shortcut that process and get in front of as many people as possible. And if we're not already at the top of page 1, and even if we are in most cases, right, having those extra impressions, the extra availability to be sold is extremely helpful. And so if you and I are now not just 10 sales in 1 sale, but we're both 10 and 10, then they need to try to figure out who to show. And if we want that top spot, then we need to be able to do that. The follow-up question, Scott, this is a question we get asked all the time, is there a time when you wouldn't run Etsy ads? You guys talk about it all the time. You love Etsy ads. Are there things you don't run ads on?
Yes. The products that are not in demand that we don't feel have the potential to get a lot of sales. And the reason why is because we want to use the money to really target the products that have the highest demand, that lead people into the shop. If we lead people into the shop, the products that are not being advertised are going to get exposure from the products that are getting demand, that are driving people into the shop. So that's our philosophy, and it's kind of like our method. But I just think if people are going after products that are in demand against people that have been selling this product already, yes, you can put up a listing and you can probably get shown in the beginning. So like I would say, and I don't know the exact time, I don't think anybody does, but there's probably a little window there that you have a brand new listing, and then Etsy's going to go, oh, cool, a new listing of a similar product to this one over here. Let's give this newcomer a little chance here because they might have a really good product that might outperform the one that's already selling the best. So they're going to go ahead and give it a little sample. Okay. And if that sample doesn't do better than the one that's being advertised or the one that's higher than it, then you're just going to fall back further and further and further and not be able to get that traffic. So that's why in the very beginning, it's so important to try to just cut out like the waiting period and just get there, right? Like just get there. But that doesn't mean that you advertise every product. It means you're advertising the products that you feel have the best chance of getting the broad search for a bigger demand product or a larger demand product. So that's how I look at it. So I'd like to be optimistic and say, sure, you can put up a product and you don't need to spend any money. I think it's going to take a lot longer. That's what I think.
Feel like you missed a great opportunity to channel Oprah. You get an ad, you get an ad, you get an ad. Everybody gets an ad, right? But it's one of those things where we have to test it. We have to see if it's working. If we can't make it work after we've done some of that keyword sculpting, then that's a different conversation, right? But we've still gotten the data back. And that, Scott, I know we talked about this a minute ago, but I think that's the thing that so many people miss when it comes to the ads data. Even if it doesn't result in profit for us, it does result in a lot of information that's useful to the listing, even if it's not profitable upfront. Now, do we run it unprofitable forever? No, but we still have gotten enough information back to get a better understanding of what's working and what's not and how to optimize it on the organic side. Maybe we re-optimize it and then come back in a few months and try ads on that listing again. But I think that is a giant thing for people.
All right, Chris, let's get on to the next thing. We'll save some time for a few more. We can't probably answer them all. We have a bunch of questions, but we'll do our best to get to the ones that we can. And so we've started a bunch of them. If you have questions, put them in the comments and we'll try to get to them. But I wanted to cover this here. Okay. So let me cue it up here and we'll get rocking and rolling. So now that we're heading into Q4, there are 2 things that Etsy sellers are going to miss. And it's going to be a big mistake because it's going to cost them thousands of dollars in lost sales. And you can't go back and click the do-over button. Just can't do it. All right. So I wanted to go through this with you so you're aware and you're prepared. And it's something you can start doing right now. And that is start collecting and building your email list right now. Get everything set up. I know you're going to ask yourself, Scott, how do you do it though? Because Etsy doesn't let you collect email addresses, and that's not fully true. Okay. Yes, they do not want you to email a customer that did not give you permission. Let me say that one more time. Etsy does not want you to send emails to customers that have not given you permission. That is true. But also, if you've been paying attention, Etsy created this share and save program. It's where they give you a special link that you get to use on social media. You get to use it on your website. You get to use it in email. Okay. So yes, they want you to drive your own traffic, because if you send traffic, they're going to reward you and they're going to give you money back on your fees. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way. Okay. Yes, you can send emails, but there's a big but there. You can't just send anyone an email that was a customer. Okay. So I want to give you a couple of things here on how we can get this thing rolling before we get into the busy season, because the mistake is you're going to wait on doing this or not do it at all. And the second thing that I'm going to share with you is where you can turn this thing into money. Okay. Where you can turn this into extra sales that you would not have had. Okay. So the very first way of collecting emails from customers is to ask them if they would like to join your VIP club. Your VIP club, or you can call it whatever you want. That's what we're calling ours. And it's where they are going to get invited to our free giveaways that we do. They're going to get a 25% off discount right away. They're going to get future discounts, pre-releases. They're going to get all of this cool stuff. And again, I've said this probably 1,000 times or more now. This is why we focus on building a brand in a niche, because if people are coming in to buy something for a wedding, or someone is purchasing something for their baby, or they're purchasing something for bass fishing, we know that they're probably interested in that thing, in that topic, in that market, in that niche. Okay. And then we know that we could potentially sell them something in the future. Okay. So the first way that I would do this, and this is what we're doing, is we are creating what they call a landing page. This is where you have a place for someone to put their name and email address. Everbee email is our tool of choice. It's directly connected with Etsy. It's where we are able to now we're able to send emails, but we're also able to link our products, bestsellers, all that stuff inside of this tool. But the cool thing about it is we can build this simple little landing page. We don't need a website. All we need is Everbee email. And if you have not yet used Everbee email, I strongly recommend it. Yes, we're an affiliate for it. We use it. That's why I'm an affiliate, because I believe in it. If you would like to try it, head on over to brandcreators.com/Everbee and sign up there. Okay. And once you do, you're going to be able to build a landing page. Okay. And once you build this landing page, okay, this web page, you're going to be able to now promote this web page. Okay. You need this piece in place in order to promote the thing. Okay. So once we have this thing built, you're going to get this long link that they're going to give you inside of Everbee. And what you're going to do with that link is we're not just going to take that link and put it in our banner, or we're going to put it in our description. We're going to make it easier. We're going to head on over to GoDaddy or whatever service you want to use for buying a domain name. And we're going to buy a domain name that basically will be something simple, something easy to remember, or something easy to type in. It could be like bassfishingprovip.com or bassfishingvip.com. Whatever it is, that's what you would do. Okay. And then you're just going to forward your long link within that. Okay. That's all you're going to do. You're basically just going to take your link, your long one. You're going to then say to the GoDaddy platform, hey, can you send people to this ugly long list or link that no one else can type in because it's so long? Can you do that? And then you're going to hit save and they're going to say yes. Okay. This is all done within the platform GoDaddy. Okay. So once we have that link now we've got something that we can share. So then inside of the message that goes out to your customers, it's going to, you have a message that you get to send out, and hopefully you've already have that written to be sent out because you want to acknowledge an order, right? And so you're inside of your Etsy account, and then you go into that message and then you edit it to say, hey, thanks so much for your order. We appreciate you supporting our small family-owned business. We're going to be busy packaging it up and getting it ready to ship out. Can't wait for you to get it. But before I let you go, I'd like to invite you to our Bass Fishing Pro VIP list, where we do giveaways and special discounts and, pre-releases. We'd love to have you be part of our club. Go here to sign up. You see what I did there? I said, go here to sign up. Now they have to click on that link. They have to go to a landing page. They have to read, and they have to put their name and their email address in, and they have to say, yes, I would like you to send me stuff. Do you think Etsy's going to have a problem with that? No, because immediately we're going to also give them a code that's going to go back to Etsy where they can buy more stuff from us. Okay. So if we're not doing this, we are missing out on the opportunity to collect emails legally, by the way. And so last year, I'll have to kind of refresh my memory here, but I believe we had over 28 or 2,900 orders in fourth quarter. That's 28 or 2,900 customers that we had the opportunity to invite them to our VIP. Now, does everybody join? No. But are some? Yes. And I can tell you this right now, just from the numbers, because now that we have our share and save link, we can send them emails throughout the year and we can see how many people are actually buying from our emails. And the last I looked, we were over $8,000 in sales just from sending email. Not too bad. That's thousands of dollars we wouldn't have had. Okay. So that's why we need to get this piece in place. Again, Everbee email. That's who we use. That's who I recommend. If you want to try it, head on over to brandcreators.com/Everbee, and you can go ahead and you can sign up over there. And Chris, if you can put the link up, that would be great. So that's the first thing. Okay. That's the very, very first thing that we need to get in place. We need to get that in place. The second thing that we need to do, okay, is we need to use the list and we need to send email. And this is where people will build the email list, but then they'll wait. They'll be like, oh, I'll send emails maybe once a month. I'll send one once every 3 months. Once every year, I'll send an email. No, you're going to be missing out on a lot of additional sales. So what we want to do is we want to pre-plan our Q4. So we're going to be like, okay, Halloween, we're going to want to send at least 2 to 3 emails minimum heading up there. So I'm saying, like, if Halloween, okay, it's end of October, we're going to want to probably send emails the first part of October, right? The first 2 weeks, because that's when people are primarily going to be buying. That's when we would also remind people about a discount we're having or about maybe a new product that we have. And that there is going to increase sales. Then from there, we're going to head into Thanksgiving or fall season. Maybe you sell stuff for fall decorating, or maybe you have something for Thanksgiving decorating. That's going to be the time to start planning your promotions. And then from there, we're going to head into Christmas. We're going to do the same thing. Okay. So once we have the email list, we're able to do this. Now, here's the cool thing. This is where this thing can really compound on itself. After Q4, it slows down a lot. Okay. It slows down a lot. But when you have an email list, you can communicate with these people and let people know about things that you're doing, or maybe you have something that's for a certain holiday that's during the year. Maybe it's 4th of July or something. Okay. You're going to be able to send out promotions around those times. So you're going to pick up extra sales that you wouldn't have had throughout the entire year. Plus, next Q4, guess what? You've got 1,000 customers that you get to communicate with well before the holiday and say, hey, August is Christmas in August, right? We're going to have a special sale. So you beat the rush. Okay. So that's how over the years, this can really build on itself. And as we're building this customer base, but now we have something that's tangible. And here's the other benefit, huge benefit to having this email list. And a lot of people don't realize this. If Etsy decided to shut your account down or ban you, suspend you, whatever, you got this email list. You could pop up a Shopify store in probably a weekend, and then you can drive people to your Shopify, okay? Because you have this asset now that you've built. They don't own it. You do, Okay. So those are the two things, the two mistakes that Etsy sellers are not taking advantage of. And if they are, they're either doing it too late or they're not doing it effectively because they're not sending enough emails. So one, start collecting the email addresses. Okay. Number two, send emails and plan out your promotions and utilize the email list. All right. And if you do those two things, it's going to be really, really hard for you not to squeak out some additional sales. And for us, it was thousands of dollars just from sending out emails. So hopefully you're going to take this advice, you're going to use it, and you're going to go ahead and start building that email list, start sending those emails, and start getting some additional sales. So Chris, we have any questions on that?
Beardo said, how do you collect emails on GoDaddy? You wouldn't be collecting them on GoDaddy. When Scott talks about GoDaddy, that's just a place to go to buy a domain. You'd still be using something like Everbee email. And all we're doing is we're taking that domain, so beardogamingvip.com, and we're pointing that to the Everbee landing page or whatever service we're using to collect those emails. Some people are saying, how much email is too much email? The answer to that is how much is annoying to people, right? Like it depends. Typically, an email or two a week is going to be more than sufficient, right? You can email every day. Scott, we email a few times a week to the people on the brand creators list, but it depends on if you have something to send, right? If you're sending them the same thing over and over again, that gets really annoying very quickly. If you have something new or a piece of content or something cool to share, then people are a lot more tolerant of that. And it doesn't have to be all sales all the time. We're a huge fan of sharing value. Hey, I found this cool thing about leopard geckos, since Fatty Pancake is in the chat, right? Whatever it is, send that to your list. And that's not annoying to people, even if you're emailing more than once in a blue moon. I think the bigger problem we see is not emailing too much. It's emailing not enough or too few times. And most people say, oh, I've got this giant email list, right? Oh, when's the last time you emailed them? Christmas. Okay, this is August. Right? Like we've missed a lot in that period, and we're not taking advantage of it. So I would rather see you email too much than too little, because you'll typically see a bigger return emailing more than enough than you will from not emailing enough.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweden said, is there a correlation between Chris's red t-shirt and passionate rants? The rants are really informative today. I think it's either the red shirt or the level of caffeine in my system, or just the topic in general, right? Today is ripe with things that I just love smashing on. So I think, it could be a combination of all of those things. Do you see anything else pop in that you wanted to address, Scott, before we talk about the multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar elephant in the room?
No, I think we should probably dive into that. Someone did ask about how do they get an audit? We're going to be actually doing season 2 here pretty soon. So we've already recorded a couple. We're going to be recording a couple more here. If you would like to be considered for an audit, head to brandcreators.com/audit. And you can go there and submit your details. And then if you are part of, or not part of, I should say, our Backstage Pass Club, if you go here, okay, brandcreators.com/club, you can join the club. It is a small fee. It's under $10, but you will be able to sit in on these audits when we do them live. And you'll also be able to ask questions to us directly live. You get access to these audits before they're released here on the YouTube channel. So if you'd like to be part of the club, very affordable. Like I said, it's under $10, brandcreators.com/club. And you can do that as well. Okay, cool. Let me tee it up for you, Chris. You got the news thing that you want to share? You ready for that?
Yeah, I have that pulled up over here.
You got it pulled up? All right. Let me go ahead and let's key this baby up. All right. So in e-commerce, we have some breaking news, and that is that the big, massive company, Temu, well, they're getting sued by another giant in the e-commerce space that is trying to take over just like they are. And now it's a battle. But what does this mean for us e-commerce sellers, ones that are selling on Etsy, ones that are selling on Amazon, ones that are selling on Shopify? What does this mean? It's been a problem. There has been a lot of counterfeit products that are being stolen. Heck, my wife's products are being stolen and slapped up on Temu. Just saw it the other day. So, Chris, what is this breaking news? Is there any hope for us? What's happening here? Who's suing who and for how much? And what does this all mean?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is maybe. Right? So we, in the e-commerce world, we've all been screaming, at least for the last year or so, about Temu or Temu, depending on who you ask. I believe, Scott, they actually changed how they pronounce their name because Western people were saying Temu. And so that's now the official way, but somebody I'm sure will correct me in the comments. But before that, you may remember there was another Chinese giant that was kind of in hot water for the exact same thing, and that was Shein, right? Yeah. And so the irony in this is that it's not Amazon, it's not Etsy, it's not Meta, it's not the US government. It is Shein suing Temu over copyright infringement. And the sub-headline here is, alleges rival loses money on every sale, right? Which we have covered in the past. There's no way that Temu is actually making money right now. They have, billions of dollars in the bank that they're pouring in to make these things work. But irony aside, is there any benefit to this lawsuit for sellers? Well, the first thing we have to think about is Shein in trouble for the same thing? And the answer is, yeah, there are actually a bunch of cases right now suing Shein for the exact same thing. But does this have some potential fallout that is good for American e-commerce or Western e-commerce sellers, right? This is happening in Washington, D.C. And the key points here from MSNBC were that that Shein sued Temu for copyright infringement and said that they're just stealing people's stuff, even though they have the same exact complaints against them right now. And what they said was Temu routinely steals designs, and that Temu employees are stealing secrets from Shein, right? So they're getting mad when somebody's stealing their stuff, but don't necessarily have a problem stealing other people's stuff. If you don't see the irony there, I don't know how better to demonstrate it to you, right? They're saying Temu loses money on every sale. I'm not sure what that has to do with the lawsuit, but it is just kind of a nice little dig. But what their assertion is that they're using trademark infringement to help them cover the losses, right? So they're losing so much that the only way for them to start to eke out a profit is to do exactly this, right? Is to go steal people's designs. And essentially they filed it on Monday in Washington, D.C., even though they're under similar lawsuits from Levi Strauss and H&M. So Scott, just before we get into some of the nitty gritty of this, what are your thoughts? Is this a good thing, generally speaking, that at least someone is taking Temu to court over the trademark infringement?
Even though it's another company that's stealing stuff. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but yeah, I do believe that this is a good thing because it's bringing more awareness publicly. So this way here, maybe it's going to tone it down a bit. Now I know money will, help always these bigger companies because they can hire attorneys and they can find loopholes and all of this stuff. Right. But I do believe it's probably going to the awareness of it is going to help us e-commerce sellers in the long run, because it's going to bring the awareness to where they're going to have to be a little bit more careful. And I think by them being more careful means they're going to steal less stuff, but I still think they're going to steal stuff. So, is it really going to help us? But it is going to probably help them steal less.
Right. For all my nerds out there, right? The eye of Sauron is finally upon them, right? Somebody's finally taking a look at it and saying, hey, that's a thing. So if you are Shein, Scott, what do you think is the rationale behind this lawsuit, right? You're literally in court on one side defending the same claims. What is the reason that somebody like a Shein would come after Temu for something like this in your mind?
I mean, I would think because they're, number one, they're trying to bring attention, but they're also bringing attention to both platforms. So it's almost like negative press is good press like thing. That's kind of like my first thought on all of this. I think it's kind of silly. I also think they need a tax deduction. So they have to basically spend more money so they can, not have to pay so much in taxes. I mean, I'm being funny there, but I really don't know. Like, if you were someone that was a thief and you didn't want to bring attention to the thing that you're actually doing, like, why would you do it? So part of me is a little bit confused as to why they would do it. I'm curious what your thoughts are, why they would do it.
So I love that analogy. You're like, it's a thief bringing attention to himself, right? You and I go rob a bank and then you steal from me and I go to the cops and go, he didn't give me my half of the bank robbery.
That's right.
That's exactly what's going on. So what's the rationale behind this? The rationale behind this, Scott, according to the lawsuit itself, and the response from Temu to this is exactly what my response and your response has been, is it's about market share, right? So they're saying, hey, Temu, those people over at Temu, they have artificially lowered prices and they're luring, right? Like that crazy guy with the van and candy, luring unexpecting US customers into downloading their app with promises of really low pricing, something Shein also does, right? And Temu's not profiting from the sale. Last time I checked, there's no legal requirement that you make profit on a sale, right? But they're just digging that in because their argument is they're doing this. You know, it sometimes happens on our platform, but the real reason they're doing this, because the only reason that they're not just totally bankrupt right now is because they want to encourage their sellers to infringe on the IP rights of others and sell substandard products, because that's the only way that they can keep that low price guarantee going, right? So the entire rationale of this is, hey, they're doing this thing, and it turns out it's because they are taking over US market share, right? And we've talked about that in the past. Temu has done a great job on the customer acquisition side of this. They haven't done a great job on the customer retention side of this. And it's why, as of like a year and a half ago, people pretty much stopped talking about Shein, and all of the scary Chinese competitor company talk moved to Temu. And apparently it's hit the Shein bottom line enough that they figured it's better to go to the cops and say, they took my half of the bank robbery, and take their little slap on the wrist, because they're going to win out on the customer side of this long term if they can prevail and get Temu shut down, sanctioned, something like that.
I think it's funny, Chris, like I'm reading that right there. Yeah. In response, a Temu spokesperson said Shein's audacity is unbelievable.
The nerve.
Do you know what's unbelievable, spokesperson for Temu, is that you're looking at your platform and you're seeing that people are stealing designs and slapping them up and putting them on your platform, and you're okay with that? Like, the audacity of you SOB. Like, come on. I mean, seriously.
Like, we got Scott dropping three-letter words over here.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. And then Shein, buried under its own mountain of IP lawsuits, has the nerve to fabricate accusations.
What could your response be, right? So you're the spokesperson for TV. What else do you say? The ball's on these guys, right? Like, how dare they? How dare they?
How dare them?
We're doing that too. They got a lot of lawsuits about this. This is our first one, so who knows? You know, like, they're.
Oh my gosh,
Scott, have you ever seen the meme of all the different Spider-Men pointing at each other and blaming one another?
Yeah.
That is this lawsuit, right? It's like, you did it, you did it, you did it. It's all the same person, right? They're all just pointing at each other and going, hey, because it's all about customer acquisition. They don't actually care about the trademark infringement. They care about the market share. And what they're saying is, you know, as these two jockey for market share, they've taken each other to court on a bunch of different things. Temu sued Shein last year over a very similar thing, right? And then said they use mafia-style intimidation of suppliers to bully them into exclusivity agreements, right? Which is hilarious, given the things that have come out about Temu going to sellers and saying, if you don't sell this, we will just take at this price, we'll just take your design and we'll use some not so legal labor potentially to create this at a cheaper price, right? Yeah. And so there's been a lot of news coming out about Temu going to sellers and saying, you have to discount this way, or we're either going to kick you off the platform, or maybe the exact same product that you sell just pops up somewhere else. So it really is Spider-Man the whole way down. And from an e-commerce perspective, right? Does this help us, hurt us, or is it just us sitting here laughing at it and saying, well, you know, nothing bad is going to come out of this, but is there a potential?
I think
upside?
The latter. I definitely think that it's just, to me, it's humorous. I don't think that it's going to do much for us directly, although I do think them battling it out is going to it's probably going to also make other people, consumers, probably a little leery. All right. Because of that. Now, some people don't care, right? They don't care that it's infringing on someone's, you know, trademark, copyright, like whatever. But I do think bringing negative light to it, like, people are going to be a little standoffish. I'm curious in the comments, how many of you, and be honest, have you ever purchased anything off of Temu or Shein? Just curious? Raise of hands. I personally have not. And I will say my father actually has. It was funny. We went there for Christmas last year and he got a couple of shirts and he threw them at us like, here's a couple gifts. And I'm like, where'd you get these? He's like, Temu. And I'm like, why? You know, like, and then he's like, oh, it came up on my feed and it was an ad and it was like super cheap and blah, blah. He hasn't really bought much since, but my point is they did get him. He's 80 years old, got him in his rocking chair, reclining, you know, and just surfing. And then they got him with an ad. They got his information. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is that right now, all they're trying to do is get you to put in your information to get you in their database. Like that is their ultimate goal. Am I wrong, Chris?
No, and the way you phrase that made it sound like apocalyptic, right? Like they want you in their database. The real reason they want that, it's about the customer acquisition. They know if they can get you, then they can probably get you again and again. Temu has struggled with that up until this point. Scott, the other thing in this lawsuit that really stood out to me that made me laugh is it was almost 80 pages, and they listed a bunch of times where Temu has listed products that they ripped off from Shein, right? If you're hanging out on YouTube, you've probably seen some of the YouTube fashion people that had that exact complaint about Shein, right? They showed some of their products on their YouTube videos and then magically it showed up on Shein, right? Like same thing going on. I think in terms of e-commerce sellers, the worst thing here that happens is we get a good laugh out of it. The best thing that could possibly happen if you're selling on competitive platforms like Amazon, Etsy, or your own Shopify, WooCommerce, e-commerce store on whatever platform you're doing it on, is that we get to gain back a little bit of market share because you lose the consumer trust. And Scott, you may or may not remember, did you ever hear the name Wish.com?
Yeah.
You remember when Wish was going to be the Amazon killer?
Vaguely, yeah. I didn't pay too much attention, but yeah, I do recall they were trying to come on the scene.
And they took market share in a very similar way to both of these companies. And I don't even know if the website exists anymore. Like, I don't know when the last time is I saw anything even mentioning them. Right. And so it's one of those things where, you know, worst case, we get a good laugh out of this. Best case, we get to see some market share and some higher quality products coming onto the market. But the thing that's the biggest surprise to me out of all of this is that it's not a major competitive platform in the US. It's somebody else who's been caught repeatedly doing the same exact thing. I'm happy to let them spend a couple $100 million on lawyers to define what the definition of the word in is, right? Or whatever it is that they're going to end up fighting over when it finally gets into court. They can fight it out for all I care for the next 20 years, and we'll see what happens as a result of it.
Yeah, so there's your breaking news for the fight with Temu and Shein. Stay tuned for another episode of the Battle of the Giants. I don't know.
that started out with a lot of velocity and just kind of fell off. To me, this is hilarious, right? This is one of the best things I've seen in a long time. And I really do think that the bank analogy, the bank robbery is the best analogy for this, right? Like, hey, he stole my stuff. And like, didn't you guys just rob a bank together? Yeah, but it's mine now, right? Like,
but you didn't give me my half.
And what I haven't done, because I just saw this morning, is I haven't gone through the 80-page complaint, because apparently in the full complaint, they have images and descriptions of the things that Temu listed that were originally Shein products. I'm curious if any of those 80 examples are the things that Shein got in trouble for. I don't think their lawyers would be dumb enough to include those as examples, but given how silly this lawsuit seems, generally speaking, you never know. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive. And if I find anything else that's amusing, I'll let you know.
Perfect. All right, cool. So let's wrap this baby up. We got any quick last minute questions we can hit here we got about another 4 or 5 minutes and then we got to jump.
Yeah. If I have Everbee Pro, is Everbee email free? Yep. They include a few hundred emails in the standard paid plan through Everbee. Umar wanted to know, can you please let me know which tool you use to check trademark? The USPTO database is a great place to go. It's uspto.gov, I believe. And then you just go to their trademark search and you can go from there. Sherry said, can you elaborate on the image file thing? Don't need to worry about your image file name. If you put some keywords in there, go for it. But Etsy typically changes that name anyway. What you're better off doing is filling in the alt description for that image. Once you upload it, accurately describe what's in the photo, and it gives you another chance to include a few keywords. NW Fudge wanted to know if you have 300 products in your store, how many should you include in advertising, and then how much per day?
It's going to come down to how many products are actually in demand, like we talked about in the very first part of this live stream. So I would then sort it by how many products do you feel that are in demand that are going to bring the good amount of traffic or a good amount of traffic into your shop. Those would be the ones that I would hand pick, whether that's 20, whether that's 50, whether that's 10. That's going to depend on you. But I would say that's where I would start. I would look at those, and then those would be the ones I would focus on as far as optimizing, but also running ads for.
I just saw a headline. I think it was from Engadget. It said Shein is now copying Temu's lawsuit. Right? Because Temu sued Shein for the same thing last year, and it, different causes of action, but essentially the same thing. Yeah. Now they just copy and pasted that lawsuit and found and replaced the names and just swapped them around. Heidi wanted to know, is it too saturated to start now? No. I would say there's no such thing as a niche that's too saturated. The only question that we have to answer is how easy is it to get started, right? Something that doesn't have a lot of competition is going to be easier to get started in. But even the most competitive niches, nichos, whatever you want to call it, are going to still have opportunities. It's just a question of what product or what kind of thing we sell to that niche to begin with. I had one other one here, Scott. Can you ask customers in a message for their email address, or is that a no-no?
Okay, so I wouldn't just come out and say, hey, can you give me your email address? I'd like to send you stuff. I personally wouldn't do it in messages, but there's nothing wrong, I don't believe, if you were in a message with someone and they were asking for a discount. Like, let's say that they sent you a message and they go, hey, I was wondering if you have any discounts running this month. And you're like, actually, we do. We give them to our VIP club. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can go here and sign up. Like, I don't see anything wrong with that, but I wouldn't just start spamming in my messages with anybody that's ever messaged me. Like, I wouldn't do that. But the auto message that goes out as a customer would receive, to me, that is a safe place to do it. If you do it in a way that says, hey, we'd like to invite you here, and then you tell them what it is, and then they go there, and then it's up to them to put their name and email address in and hit submit. It's up to them. So yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Awesome. So let me just say, lastly, we covered a lot. We covered a ton. We will be back here next Wednesday, and we will do another live stream. If you are in our Q4 camp, we have our last call coming up this Monday. So look or keep a lookout for an email there. If you would like our email guide, just put email in the comments. The other guides as well. We have the Etsy ads guide, and we also have the SEO guide. If you would like either of those, just put either SEO or ads in the comments, and we'll make sure that we get you a copy of that. If you would like to put your name in for an audit, let me see here. I had the link. I'm going to put the link up again. There it is. If you go to brandcreators.com/audit, you can submit your shop there, and potentially you can be featured on one of our Etsy shop audits. When we do these, they're batch recorded, usually do 2 to 3 at a time, and we do it in front of a live audience, our Backstage Pass Club, which again, if you want to be part of our club for under $10 a month, just hit join on this YouTube video, and you can do that. But we are right now, we're going through the process of doing the next batch, which will be in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. So if you'd like to be part of that, head on over to brandcreators.com/audit, and you can submit that. So that's it. That is going to wrap up today's live stream. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. Just about 200 of you were on here today, and we are so happy that you joined us. And we know that there's going to be thousands of other people joining us later on the replay. We still love you. We'd love you to show up live, though. It's pretty cool. Anyway, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. Have an awesome, amazing day. And just remember, we're rooting for you out there for Q4. It's coming. Get ready. It's coming. All right. Take care, guys.